the one who had stood in his place. There is a saying, and you've probably heard it before, there is no such thing as a free lunch. I've heard it many times. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Salvation is free to us. Yes, that is true. But it costs Christ everything to make it free. For us to have it in freedom, it cost him his life. And that is no small thing. What we honor today and what we celebrate is the selfless act of a God who said, it is not enough for me to be happy and well in heaven if it means that I'm not there with you. Life is not life unless it is with you. I won't go through all of the story because it talks about how they mocked him, they spat at him, they led him to the cross. But I want to read from verse 37 to 42. In fact, if someone has their Bibles there, if you can read verse 37 to 42 of Matthew 27. Matthew 27, verse 37 to 42. Who has that?
Yeah, I've got it, Leticia. Above his head they placed the written charge against him. This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. 2 rebels were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross if you are the Son of God." In the same way, the chief priests and teachers of the law and the elders mocked him. He saved others, they said, but he can't save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross and we will believe in him. He trusts in, is it?
Yeah, that's it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is the King of the Jews. In mockery, they gave him the recognition that he really is. He was not only the King of the Jews, he was and is the King of the world. He was numbered as a transgressor as he was crucified between 2 robbers, one on the left and one on the right. And people continued to mock at him and say, well, you who destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. And still, Jesus does not say anything. They say, if you are the Son of God, come down from the cross. Very similar words to Satan when he tempted Jesus, if you are the Son of God. And Jesus could well have taken himself off the cross. He had the power to do so. But either it was his life or it was ours. If he saved himself, how could he save us? And in between the choice of saving himself and saving us, he could do nothing else but save us. Because as we know, 1 Corinthians 13 says, love does not seek its own. And if love does not seek its own, it means that love seeks others. God is all about others. And if it means he has to die, if it means he has to suffer, he will do whatever he has to do to save you, to save me. Whatever he has to do, he will do it. Because that's what God is like. He will not stop until he has done everything for you and for me. That is the love of God. And he chose us. He chose us. And when you think of that the God of heaven, a perfect God who was fine and well in heaven, came down to this earth where it's corrupt and where it's broken, and we are broken. Doesn't matter how long we've been traveling with God, we are all broken. And God did that for us. A young woman who was blind she had a boyfriend, and her boyfriend said to her, well, I want to marry you, and let's make it official. And she said, well, I would like to marry you, but she said, I can't see. And and if that at all changes, maybe I'll marry you. And so the young man went away disappointed because he wanted to marry this girl. But then the doctor called up and said to this young woman, by the way, someone has donated their eyes for you so that you can see. Would you like to take it? She said, well, of course, I'll do the operation. I'll have it so that I can see. And she has the operation, and then she can see. And now the boyfriend comes back and he says, well, now that you can see, how about it? Let's get married. And as she looked at him for the first time, she was able to see him. And she saw a man that was blind. And she said, well, I can see, but I don't think I'll marry you because you can't see. And now he went away more heartbroken, because what more could he do? And he sent a letter to her only a few weeks later saying to her, take care of those eyes, my dear, for before they were yours, they were mine. We will never fully grasp the sacrifice of Christ. Even if year after year we talk about it, we will never fully grasp what it is he sacrificed for us. We'll never fully understand it. But these verses that we're reading gives us some insight into what it was like for the Son of God. That he died alone. His disciples left him. The religious mocked him. The soldiers crucified him. Only his mother was there, and many others fled. The crowds laughed and mocked. I want to take us to the last few verses that we're going to look at today, and that is from verse 45 to 51. The closing words of Christ. If someone has that, Matthew 27, verse 45 to 51.
Now from the 6th hour until the 9th hour, there was darkness over the land. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? Some of those who stood there, when they heard that, said, this man is calling for Elijah. Immediately one of them ran and took a sponge, filled it with sour wine, and put it on the reed, and offered him to drink. The rest said, let him alone. Let us see if Elijah will come to save him. And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit.
Thank you for that. Notice those closing hours, the 6th hour until the 9th hour, there was darkness. And I believe that the physical darkness that was felt was mirroring the spiritual darkness of the people, what was in the hearts of the people, and what Jesus was feeling himself as he was on that cross. But at the 9th hour, we see that light broke through the darkness. Jesus cried out with a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me? And in that moment, he gave up. It says he cried out with a loud voice and he yielded up his spirit. And what seemed like the end was only the beginning. Many of the disciples and the people at the time thought, well, that's the end of Christ. They didn't understand his message. They didn't